what's going on, everybody? This is Jeffrey Wallace, and I'm the executive pastor at Peace Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I want to talk to you about 8 strategic steps that you can do in conducting a small group in an urban context. It's so important that we understand that small groups in this day and time is so important because it's the best way to really build community within your local context. It is the way that you can learn how to grow larger and smaller at the same time. Andy Stanley, a pastor at a church called North Point in Atlanta, he said something I thought that was really, really cool. He said, life happens in circles and not in rows. And when we look at Jesus and we study Jesus, he had life and community with the 12 disciples, but he was really close to 3, Peter, James, and John. And so Jesus, I believe, really showed, even during his life with Peter, James, and John, the importance of having a small group, the importance of having some people that you can really do life with and how to build with. Well, I believe our students, they need that as well. And so we're going to talk about 8 steps on how to have a small group in an urban context. Because, I think that, this is the way students really began to get discipled and trained, and they get loved on in a very, very major way. So here we go. Are you ready? Let's do this. The very first thing that you want to do is you are trying to bring this to your local church, or you're trying to bring this to your local youth ministry context, is you want to clarify your vision. You want to talk about, this is where we're going. The worst thing you can do is jump in the room and say, hey guys, we're going to start small groups next week. That's tragic. Don't do that. You want to clarify the vision of what you're trying to accomplish. Why do you believe you need to do small groups? What's the benefit of doing small groups? What's the way that we're going to do small groups? So when you start off, you want to clarify your vision. Now, when you're clarifying the vision, the very first person that you need to clarify the vision to is your senior pastor. And so when your senior pastor has buy-in, when your senior pastor is connected, when your senior pastor believes, then guess what? It is going to be so much easier for you to accomplish the strategy of developing a small group in your context. Now, after you clarify the vision, the second thing that you want to do is you want to identify your target audience, and you want to also understand the culture of youth ministry and the youth culture in your particular context. So, for example, what are the needs of the kids that are in your community? Too often what we'll do is we'll go to these conferences or these events and we'll hear people talk about things, and we'll try to fit that model into our context. Well, when you do that, what happens is you program for kids that are not in the room. So after you clarify the vision of what you want to do as a small group ministry and a small group leader, then you also want to identify what are some of the needs of the kids that we're going to be ministering to. Am I ministering to a group of kids that are first generation Christians? Am I ministering to a group of kids that are in some non-traditional homes? Am I ministering to kids in traditional homeschoolers? What is your target audience? Because when you identify what's your target audience, then you'll be prepared to program for those kids that are in the room. So 1, you want to clarify the vision. 2, you want to identify, your target audience and really understand the culture of the kids that you're connecting with. And then the third thing that you want to do is you want to develop what we call a strategic strategy. Now, and what the strategic strategy is it's a strategy that is contextualized around some curriculum. One of the greatest curriculums that I've seen and really kind of help in nurturing the small group process is our discipleship toolkit that we use for UYWI by my friend D.A. Horton. I'm telling you, if you use the discipleship toolkit, that gives you a great structure and foundation on how to build around the small group model. So for example, what will happen is that you come in and maybe do some icebreakers or some games, and then you have some announcements, take up an offering or some sort, let some kids maybe do some type of activities where they're doing a dance or a rap or something. And then if you yourself are not comfortable with communicating to the kids, then you pop in a video of DA and he will give you so many different topics on some foundations and fundamental principles of the doctrine. Then after that, there is small group lessons that you will have where you can now begin to break out in middle school girls and middle school boys, high school girls and high school boys. And there are some questions that now you guys can begin to go around and talk through based on what DA just talked about. Or you can listen, if you feel comfortable in preaching and teaching, then you can listen to what DA said, and then you can preach the message and then allow the kids to go into the small groups yourself. But that's what we're talking about as far as developing a strategy of how you want to implement the small groups. So we clarify the vision, we identify the target audience there. Then we develop that strategy, and now it's time to choose your approach. That's number 4. Now, choosing your approach means when are we going to meet and how long we're going to meet. You may want to meet on a Sunday morning, Saturday night, a midweek. It doesn't matter. There's no right way or wrong way to choose, approach to choose. It's whatever is comfortable for your particular context. It's whatever is comfortable for the rhythm of your particular church. So you want to choose an approach and say, hey, when are we going to meet? For us at my church, we do small groups during our 8 and 11 o'clock service on Sunday morning, simply because we know that we live in Atlanta, traffic is crazy, and that's really just the best time for us to maximize the amount of kids that we're going to have on our property at one particular time. We've tried it on off days, but it really didn't work because parents just didn't feel like fighting through that traffic to come on an off night. They said, hey, we're already there at church on Sunday morning. I'm going to bring my kid, so you need to have small groups during that time. So you want to choose your approach there. Now, after you've chosen your approach, now it's time to recruit, train, and retain relational. Now, here's the word, relational volunteers. You want to make sure that you're bringing people in, who's going to be very relational. Kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They want leaders, small group leaders, who are going to be relational, who's going to love on them, who's going to care about them, who's going to speak life to them, who's not going to be a bully or a buddy. Somebody who's going to really stretch them and challenge them around the Word of God, but they are very relational. So you want to recruit and you want to train relational people around your approach, around your strategy, around your vision. Now, after you do that, then the 6th thing that you want to do is you want to evaluate the process. You want to, now you've brought the leaders in, you've cast a vision, you've trained them, they're relational, they're going, you're in your small group process. Now, you don't want to just drop it off and go do something else. You want to evaluate the process. I have a saying that I use in my church that says that I want to inspect what I expect. And what that means is I'm always sitting in some small group times. I'm sitting down with our small group leaders. I'm talking to our students, and I'm evaluating the process. And so that's what you want to do. After you have really now brought those leaders in, don't just drop them off or, just go let them do their own thing and never check up on them. You want to make sure that you're constantly evaluating the process. Now, this 6th step right here, the evaluation process, is very, very key, because if you don't hear from the students, then you really don't know if you're being successful or not. If you don't really talk to the youth leaders, you don't know, or the small group leaders, you don't know whether they feel called to this or not. So this step number 6, that evaluation process, is so very critical in the process of developing a strong small group ministry in an urban context. Then what I will say is number 7 is you want to develop apprentices or interns. Now, what this means is you always want to make sure that just in case, because life happens, just in case a small group leader says, you know what, I can't do this any longer. You don't want your small group to stop meeting. You want to have apprentices and interns that are already waiting in the wing that can come in and fill that spot, right? And so what I would suggest in this step number 7 is that you develop constantly some interns, college interns. It can be older high school students who can lead small group middle school small groups, but you want to develop interns that maybe they sit with those small group leaders, or they sit down and they already have developed a relationship with those small group leaders, but you want to develop, some interns and some apprentices who can come. And then finally, after you've done all of that, it's time to apply, impact, and inspire your kids. That's step number 8. You want to apply all of these steps. You want to apply step number 1 through 7. You want to put it all together. You want to have a system in place, and then you want to apply and inspire and encourage. I'm going to tell you, One of the greatest things that changed the tone of our youth group there in Atlanta is doing small groups. It was an amazing, amazing time because it was in the small groups where kids really began to go deeper in their faith, deeper in the Word of God, and really build relationships that will last a lifetime. Hey, I don't know where you are in the life of your ministry, but I will encourage you to think about possibly, starting a small group. Check out some places that are doing it, some churches that are doing it. Check out some places that are doing it right and doing it wrong. But I'm telling you, life happens in circles, not in rows. God bless you. Take care of yourself.